My brother took over the family restaurant, kicked me out, and declared me a nobody. Now all I have is my father's old recipe book, a food card on the corner, and a 7-year-old son who believes in me more than I do. But when my lines get longer than he can handle, my brother snaps, and does something that will shake the city. I'm Michael, 37 years old, male, and I'm writing this at 2 a.m. from the folding chair inside my food cart, the one place in this whole damn city where I can breathe without feeling someone else's thumb on my throat. The griddle's still warm, and my kid, Jake, 7 years old, is asleep in the passenger seat of my beat-up pickup outside, curled up with one of my old flannels like it's a blanket. He's the only reason I didn't burn everything to the ground months ago. If you'd told me 5 years back that I'd be running a breakfast cart on the corner of 8th and Morrison, I would have laughed. I grew up in a restaurant, literally. My dad's place, Panny's Kitchen, was where I learned to walk, talk, and scramble my first egg. We weren't fancy, but we were the kind of spot where regulars knew each other's birthdays, and my dad kept a jar of pickles on the counter for sad days, because nobody should eat their feelings without something crunchy. My older brother Ethan, 40 years old, acted like the place was his birthright from day one. He was the golden son, the one who got the new sneakers, the one who got the senior year trip to Florida, the one who Dad trusted with the register by the time he was 14. Me? I washed dishes until my hands cracked, worked the line, did the prep, fixed the fryer when it sputtered, and was always told, "One day, Mikey, you're next." That one day died the week after Dad did. The funeral hadn't even finished smelling like lilies before Ethan took the keys, changed the locks, and put a "closed for renovations, new ownership coming soon" sign in the window. No discussion, no family meeting, nothing. When Mom asked why he hadn't included me, he shrugged and said, "It's a business, not a charity." A business? Those were Dad's recipes in every drawer. Dad's handwriting on the walls. But fine. Whatever. I tried to stay civil, tried to talk to Ethan. He barely looked at me. Then came the real punch. Ethan banned us, the family, from eating there. Conflict of interest, he claimed. Customers get uncomfortable when people act entitled. Entitled? That was the word he used. To my face. While Jake was standing beside me in his Spider-Man hoodie, holding my hand, confused why he wasn't allowed to go in and get his favorite blueberry pancakes anymore. I still remember Jake tugging on my sleeve and whispering, "Why is Uncle Ethan mad at you?" And feeling my throat close up like someone had tied a knot inside it. Mom cried. My sister Sophia, 35 years old, kept her head down and kept working for Ethan because she said she needed the paycheck. Hey guys, real quick before we keep going, don't forget to sub and drop a like if you're enjoying the story. And tell me what you think in the comments. Thank you very much. Enjoy watching. And me? I tried to swallow my pride. I get a job and keep my kid fed. Ended up working nights at a laundromat, scrubbing gum off dryer drums and praying the machine that kept spitting sparks wouldn't actually explode. I'd walk home at 2 a.m., clothes smelling like detergent and metal, and try not to think about the sign on the restaurant door. The sign that used to say Panny's Kitchen, but now just said Ethan's name in shiny new lettering. Ethan stopped being my brother the day he locked me out of our father's life's work. But he became something worse the day he smirked and said, "Maybe it's better this way. You were never cut out for leadership." That sentence lived under my skin like a splinter. So that night, 3 months after he cut me off, I opened Dad's old recipe notebook. The pages were yellow, grease-stained, corners torn, but they were his. And when Jake climbed onto the couch beside me and said, "Can we make his burritos, Dad?" I realized I didn't need Ethan's building or his shiny sign or his smug face. I just needed a grill, a cart, a corner, and my kid. That was the night my new life started. And the night Ethan's fuse quietly lit. He just didn't know it yet. The first morning I rolled the cart out, I felt like a fraud. It was this dented metal thing I bought off a mechanic who practically paid me to haul it out of his yard. The wheels squeaked, the counter was crooked, and when I turned on the griddle, the whole cart vibrated like it was possessed. But Jake, God, that kid, stood beside me with his chin up like we were opening a 5-star restaurant. "I'm your helper," he said, wearing these big yellow plastic sunglasses because he said chefs should look cool. He had no idea how badly my hands were shaking. I set up on the corner of 8th and Morrison, under a flickering street lamp, right across from an old shoe repair shop. It was cold enough that my breath fogged over the grill, but the second I slapped down bacon and the smell hit the air, people started looking over. At first it was one construction guy, then 2 nurses coming off night shift. Then a bus driver who said he'd give me a week before the city kicked me out. But he came back the next day anyway. I served Dad's breakfast burritos. Eggs, potatoes, chorizo, the house salsa he used to guard like state secrets, and coffee. Simple, black, cheap beans dressed up with real care. It felt like bringing a piece of Dad back to life. The first customer took a bite, stopped mid-chew, and asked, "This your recipe or your old man's?" My throat tightened so hard I almost couldn't answer. "His," I said. The guy smiled. He'd be proud. And that's when it hit me, really hit me, that this wasn't just survival. This was reclaiming something Ethan thought he could take away. Word spread faster than I expected. The corner regulars came back, then office workers, then some high school kids on their way to class. Someone made a TikTok about the burrito guy with the cute kid assistant, and suddenly people were lining up before I even unlocked the cart. Jake handed out napkins, told everyone, "My grandpa made these recipes," like it was a secret badge of honor. He'd beam every time someone said the food was amazing. For the first time since Dad died, I felt whole, like I could breathe again. But good news doesn't stay hidden in a family like mine. 3 weeks in, when we had our biggest line yet, I heard a voice behind me, a voice I'd grown up both respecting and resenting. Sophia. My sister stood there in her work apron, hair pulled back, eyes tired in that way you get after years of holding peace in places that don't deserve it. "Michael!" she whispered, looking around at the crowd. The smiles, the little handwritten chalk sign Jake made that said, "Try our burritos, they're delish!" Her voice cracked just a little. "You're doing it! You actually did it!" I expected her to be proud, maybe even happy. Instead, she looked scared, physically scared. "Ethan knows," she said. "He saw a video of your card online. He's furious." I laughed because what else could I do? Let him be furious. But she shook her head fast, too fast. "No, Michael, you don't understand. He's not just mad. He's talking about shutting you down. He says he has connections downtown. He's calling people, making threats." Jake looked up from where he was bagging burritos and asked, "Is Uncle Ethan coming here?" Sophia's face turned pale, and for the first time I realized this wasn't sibling rivalry anymore. Ethan hadn't just locked me out of the restaurant. He wanted to erase me entirely, wipe out the piece of Dad I still had, the cart, the recipes, the customers, my life. That's when the old fear hit me, the fear he fed into me growing up, that he was bigger, louder, more powerful, the one who deserved everything. But then I looked at my kid, standing there covered in bits of flour, smiling like he belonged behind that counter, and the fear drained out of me. "No," I said. "He's not shutting me down, not this time." Sophia hesitated like she wanted to say more, like she was carrying a heavier secret, but a customer stepped up and she backed away. "I'll try to talk to him," she murmured, though we both knew talking never worked with Ethan. When she left, the air felt heavier. The day tasted different, like something stormy was about to break open. Jake tugged on my hoodie again. "Dad, are we okay?" I knelt down, wiped a bit of salsa off his cheek, and forced a smile. "We're better than okay," I told him. "We're just getting started." Inside, though? Inside, I felt the first tremor of the earthquake Ethan was about to unleash. I should have known Ethan wouldn't stop at threats. He never did anything quietly. Not when we were kids, not when Dad trusted him with the restaurant, not when he shut me out of it. If Ethan felt challenged, he had to crush whatever was in front of him, even if it was his own brother. The morning everything escalated, Jake and I were halfway through the breakfast rush. It was one of those crisp Portland mornings where the air bites a little, and the smell of sizzling chorizo makes people actually smile before caffeine hits their bloodstream. I was working the griddle when I noticed every customer go quiet at once. Not like they were waiting for food, more like they were watching a train wreck unfold in slow motion. And then I heard the footsteps. Heavy, purposeful, familiar in the worst way. Ethan. He marched up in his stupid tailored coat, hair gelled, expression carved out of ice, and shoved his way right to the front of the line. People stepped back like he was a cop serving a warrant. He wasn't looking at the cart. He wasn't looking at the customers. He was looking straight at me. "Move!" he snapped at Jake, who froze like a deer caught between headlights. My blood went cold. "Hey, don't talk to my kid like that." Ethan's eyes flicked toward me. "This is what you're doing with your life? Copying Dad's recipes on a sidewalk? You're embarrassing the family." I wanted to reach over the counter and break something. His nose, preferably. But Jake was right there, holding onto my hoodie sleeve like he sensed the shift in the air. "Say what you came to say," I muttered. Ethan stepped closer, invading my space like he owned it. "I already made some calls. This corner isn't zoned for food service. You don't have the proper permits. You're shutting this down today." A few customers murmured. One guy actually said, "Dude, chill," which only made Ethan square his shoulders like he wanted to fight a civilian for daring to exist. "I followed every rule," I said. "No, you didn't," he shot back. "You think a city inspector won't take a phone call from me? You think they won't show up when I tell them someone's serving unlicensed food on public property?" He said it loud enough for the entire line to hear, and loud enough for Jake to hear every toxic syllable. My kid shrank behind me. That did it. Something inside me snapped clean. "You're not shutting me down," I said. "Not again!" Ethan's voice rose, sharp, unhinged. "I'm protecting our father's business, you idiot. You're diluting the brand with your street cart nonsense. People are talking, and investors are asking why there's a Panty brother selling burritos on a corner like some—" He stopped himself, but not fast enough. Everyone heard the word he almost spat out. Some lowlife. That's what he wanted to call me. The line of customers stiffened. Someone muttered, "What an ass." Another woman folded her arms and said, "He's serving better food than half the restaurants downtown." Ethan heard all of it. His face went blotchy and furious, the way it used to when Dad called him out for cutting corners. "This isn't over," he hissed. "I'll have you gone by tomorrow." He turned on his heel and stormed off so fast he shoulder-checked a garbage can, knocking it over. The clang echoed down the street. Jake peeked out from behind me, voice trembling. "Dad, did we do something bad?" And for the first time in my life, I realized something terrifying and freeing at the same time. Ethan didn't hold power over me anymore. He only held power over the person I used to be. I knelt down, pulled Jake close, and said, "We didn't do anything wrong. We're building something good, and nobody gets to take that from us." But once the rush ended and the adrenaline wore off, Sophia texted, "We need to talk. Tonight. It's important." My stomach twisted. Sophia wasn't dramatic. She wasn't reckless. If she said something was important, it meant something behind the scenes had already snapped. So after closing up, after cleaning the griddle and packing the cart and letting Jake eat the last stray churro we tested that morning, I drove to her apartment. She opened the door with eyes swollen from crying. "Michael," she whispered, voice breaking, "you don't understand how bad it's gotten. Ethan's been lying. To investors, to vendors, to staff. And now he's panicking because your card is getting attention." She stepped back, letting me in. And then she said the thing that changed everything. "He's not just trying to shut you down. He's scared people will find out what he's been hiding." Sophia had always protected Ethan. Always. If she'd reached the point where she was ready to turn on him, then whatever Ethan was hiding, it was big. Big enough to take him down. Big enough to destroy the whole damn restaurant. And for the first time in years, I felt a flicker of something I hadn't dared feel since Dad died. Hope. The kind that tastes like fire. Walking into Sophia's apartment felt like walking into a confession booth. She kept pacing, wringing her fingers, her apron still dusted with flour from the breakfast shift at the restaurant. Ethan now ran like a tyrant. "Sophia," I said gently, "just tell me." She stopped pacing. Her jaw trembled once before she finally spoke. "Ethan's been lying to investors," she said. "About finances, about supplier costs, about payroll. He's been funneling money into expansions that don't exist." My stomach flipped. "What do you mean, don't exist?" "He's telling people he's opening a second location. He's been selling them on projections, drawings, plans that don't exist. He's hiding money in accounts under fake business names. And now he's terrified someone will start looking too closely because your card is getting attention, and he's afraid people will compare numbers." I sank into her couch. All the years I spent thinking that Ethan was the responsible one, the leader, the natural heir. And all that he'd been doing was playing king with Dad's legacy until the castle started cracking. But that wasn't the worst part. Sophia's voice lowered. "He's been using Dad's name, pretending Dad approved these plans before he died. Investors believed him because—" Her throat closed. "Because who would lie about something like that?" My hands curled into fists. He didn't just take Dad's restaurant. He took his memory. Sophia hugged her arms around herself, like she was trying not to fall apart. I tried to say something. I tried to tell him he needed to stop, that he was making it worse. He told me to shut up and do my job. Said if I didn't like it, I could leave. But if I leave, I'm out of a paycheck. And Michael, I'm scared. I stood and placed a hand on her shoulder. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because... She wiped her eyes. Because part of me thought he'd fix it. That he'd snap out of it. That maybe he just needed time. But seeing him chase you down in public, seeing him threaten to ruin your livelihood, I realize he's not coming back from this. He's gone. Then she looked up at me. And what she said next hit like a punch to the chest. I need your help. I blinked. My help? Sophia, I'm barely hanging on as it is. I know, she said. But you're the only one who still knows Dad's recipes by heart. The only one who was ever honest about how the business should run. The customers love your cart. People talk about it at the restaurant. They say your food tastes like Dad's did. She hesitated. Ethan's food doesn't. There it was. The truth neither of us ever said out loud. Ethan may have inherited the building, but I inherited the soul. Before I could respond, Sophia's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and immediately shoved it face down on the counter, but I caught a glimpse of the preview. Ethan, where the hell are you? Call me now. Sophia swallowed. He thinks I stayed late to reorganize inventory. I've been hiding receipts, ones that prove he's lying. He's starting to notice. He's paranoid. He's losing it, Michael. I suddenly felt the air crackle with something dangerous. Ethan wasn't just angry. He was unstable. What happens if he finds out you're talking to me? I asked. Sophia flinched so hard she looked like she'd been struck. He'll fire me, and he'll tell people I stole from the restaurant. I sat heavily on the edge of her kitchen counter, trying to process everything. Ethan was unraveling, lashing out. Sabotaging the cart hadn't satisfied him. He wanted control. He wanted to crush competition, real or imagined. He wanted to protect the empire he'd already built on lies. And Sophia was caught in the crossfire. Before I could say anything else, my phone buzzed. A new message from an unknown number. Unknown, nice cart. Shame if a health inspector shut it down. I felt the blood drain from my face. Ethan wasn't bluffing, he was escalating. And then, like a scene choreographed by the universe, Jake called out from the living room where he was playing with a little wooden spatula Sophia kept from her childhood kitchen set. Dad, someone's outside the building. They were taking pictures of your truck. My heart stopped. I ran to the window. Below, in the streetlight's glow, a man in a city jacket was photographing my license plate. He looked around, then took a photo of the cart's trailer hitched too. When he spotted me in the window, he jumped into a white sedan and sped off. Sophia clapped a hand over her mouth. Michael, he's following through. I looked at her, and in that moment the fear turned to something else. Something sharper, something stronger. Resolve. If Ethan wants a war, I said quietly, he's about to find out exactly what Dad taught me. Because Dad had taught me two things, how to cook with heart and how to stand my ground like hell. Sophia exhaled shakily. What are you going to do? I didn't answer. Not yet. But inside, the first spark of revenge was lighting. Not petty revenge. Not financial sabotage. Not screaming or fighting. No. Something deeper. Something poetic. Something that would hit Ethan where it hurt most. His reputation. His pride. His illusion of control. And that revenge would begin soon. Sooner than even I planned. But first, a storm was coming, and I needed to be ready. Update 1. Hey everyone, it's me again. I didn't plan to make an update this soon, but holy hell. Things blew up faster than I expected. Some of y'all in the comments from my last post said that Ethan sounded like the kind of guy who'd throw himself through a window rather than admit he's wrong. One of you even wrote, OP, that man is 3 bad decisions away from setting his own eyebrows on fire. I laughed at the time. Now I'm not so sure you were wrong. Anyway, thank you for the support. For real. Some of you said the food cart felt like my dad was reaching down and giving me a second chance. I wasn't ready to hear that, but I needed it. Okay. Deep breath. Here's what happened next. After the incident with the city worker photographing my truck, I didn't sleep at all. I sat in the dark with Jake snoring softly beside me on the pull-out couch Sophia set up for us, and I just stared at my dad's recipe notebook. Not reading it, just holding it. It felt like a lifeline. By dawn, I'd made my decision. If Ethan wanted to weaponize the city against me, fine. If he wanted to play dirty, fine. But he forgot something. Everyone in the city loved my dad, and the food cart had revived those memories. People came to me because they missed what he created, and if Ethan wanted to crush that, I would make sure everyone watched him do it. So the next morning, instead of waiting for inspectors to show up, I moved the cart. Not far. Just 1 block over. On the edge of the Saturday farmers market, where foot traffic was insane. I didn't need permits there. It operated under a vendor umbrella. And best of all, everyone who had ever eaten at Dad's restaurant walked straight through that market on weekends. Jake and I set up early. He wore his yellow sunglasses again because he said, "They make me brave." And the moment I flipped the first tortilla, the crowd started forming like magic. People took photos, posted stories, tagged their foodie friends. Within an hour, someone said, "Did you hear? The restaurant on Maple? They're slipping. The new management changed the menu or something." I kept my face neutral, but inside? Inside, I felt Ethan's ego starting to crack. By noon, the line was so long it wrapped around a flower stall. And while customers waited, they talked. Oh, they talked. "Remember how it used to taste? Ethan ruined that place. This tastes like Panny's kitchen again." Word spreads fast in a city with a memory. But then the real turning point arrived. I was handing out burritos when a man approached. Suit, clipboard, a official city lanyard. But he wasn't alone. Sophia walked beside him. Her arms crossed, her jaw set, and she looked like someone ready to drop a bomb. "Michael," she said, voice steady but eyes blazing. "This is David." The inspector nodded. "Your sister requested I review some documents concerning activity at the restaurant." I blinked, confused, until Sophia handed me a folder. Inside were spreadsheets, records, email printouts, proof Ethan had been faking invoices, misreporting supplier payments, and falsifying expansion plans to investors. I felt my jaw drop. "Sophia, how did you—" "I've been documenting everything," she said, "for months, in case he turned on me. When he went after you, I realized this is the only way to stop him." I stared at my sister, my quiet, loyal sister, who had held her breath for years inside Ethan's shadow. And suddenly I understood the fear she'd been carrying. She wasn't just trying to protect me. She was trying to save our dad's legacy. David, the inspector, cleared his throat. "We'll be conducting an investigation, and based on what I've already seen, it appears your brother's claims about your lack of permits were intentionally misleading." Understatement of the century. But then, because Ethan never senses danger until it's punching him in the teeth, he showed up. He stormed into the farmer's market, bright red, sweating, practically vibrating. People backed away like he was contagious. "You think this is funny?" he shouted. "You think you can just move? You think you can humiliate me like this?" Everyone stared. Phones came out. Videos started recording. Jake stepped behind me again. I stood my ground. "Ethan," I said, "you need to leave." He shoved a table, knocked over a crate of oranges. A vendor shouted at him, but he didn't care. He was locked on me like a missile. "You did this! You stole my staff, my customers, my family!" Then he pointed at Sophia. "And you, traitor!" A sound left Sophia's throat I hadn't heard since we were kids. A tiny, broken gasp. That's when something inside me snapped clean in half. "You don't talk to her," I said, stepping forward. "Ever again. Not like that." Ethan laughed. A wild, bitter, unhinged sound. "Or what? What are you going to do, Mikey?" And then he grabbed my cart. He actually grabbed the side of the cart and tried to tip it. People screamed. A woman lunged forward to grab Jake before the boiling coffee urn could spill. The whole cart lurched. My heart stopped. I lunged too, caught the edge, stopped it from falling, barely. Gas rippled through the crowd. Phones captured everything. A man in a flannel shouted, "Hey, chill out, psycho!" Another yelled, "I'm calling the cops!" Ethan froze, chest heaving, eyes wild, and in that suspended, awful moment, with the crowd watching, with Sophia trembling, with Jake's little hands gripping my shirt, I realized something. This was the moment Ethan destroyed himself. Not because I wanted revenge, but because he handed me the perfect weapon, his own public meltdown. He let every living witness watch him try to flip his dead father's recipes onto the pavement. He let them see the truth. The illusion cracked. The king fell. And the crowd saw it happen. And I, quiet, steady, patient me, finally understood. Sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't handed to you. Sometimes the villain hands it to himself. Update 2. Okay. I did not expect the last post to blow up the way it did. Some of y'all are hilarious. One person said, "Your brother is about 3 tantrums away from being escorted out of Costco by security." Accurate. Another said, "OP, congrats on your soft launch into becoming the hero of every dad food car TikTok." I actually choked on my coffee reading that. But real talk, I needed that laughter. Because yesterday spiraled fast. Way faster than I could have predicted. Here's what went down. After Ethan tried to flip my cart in front of half the damn city, everything spun into chaos. Customers were shouting, vendors were yelling at him to get out. A crowd had formed, not a small one either. Phones were everywhere, someone was live streaming. Ethan finally backed off when the market manager stepped between us and threatened to call the police. His face was purple, his jaw locked, and he kept repeating, "You're ruining everything," like he couldn't tell the difference between reality and whatever story he'd written for himself. Jake clung to my side. Sophia stood behind me, arms crossed tight, eyes blazing, not with fear anymore, but fury. Something in her had snapped too. Except unlike Ethan, she snapped upward. Ethan wasn't done, though. He pointed at the inspector, David, who was still holding the folder of evidence she'd given him. "You're making a mistake. Those papers are stolen. You hear me? She stole from me. From our business." But David didn't flinch. "The business belongs to both of you according to the original transfer documents, and these records show financial inconsistencies that need to be investigated." Ethan sputtered. "She's lying! They're both lying. He's manipulating her. He always has." And then he made the mistake of looking at me again. "You did this," he hissed. "You're trying to take my restaurant from me." I didn't even raise my voice. "No, Ethan, I'm trying to take our father's restaurant back." The crowd murmured. People exchanged glances. Ethan's expression cracked down the middle, and then he ran. Not walked, not stomped. He ran, pushing through the farmer's market like a man fleeing a crime scene, which honestly wasn't far from the truth. The second he was gone, it felt like the whole street exhaled. The inspector closed the folder. "We'll be in touch within the next 48 hours, he told me quietly. "And just so you know, you handled yourself well today." I nodded, too numb to feel anything. But Sophia? She broke. Not dramatically. No yelling, no sobbing. Just this soft collapse into my arms, like years of holding the weight of Ethan's behavior had finally crushed her. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I should have stopped him sooner. I should have protected Dad's restaurant. I should have—" "No," I said. "You're the reason we can fix this." For the first time in a long time, she believed it. The fallout hit immediately. By the time I got Jake home, the video of Ethan's meltdown had gone viral. Well, Portland viral, but still big. Someone titled it, "Local Restaurant Owner Loses Mind, Tries to Flip Food Cart in Farmer's Market." The comments were brutal. "Is he okay?" "Man needs therapy, a nap, and decaf." "Dude tried to WWE a burrito cart?" But beneath the jokes was something else. People were angry. Angry that Ethan ruined a beloved local restaurant. Angry that he treated Sophia like disposable staff. Angry that he went after a single dad trying to rebuild. That evening, Sophia and I sat on her couch while Jake played on her tablet, oblivious to the adult chaos. "I need to tell you something else," she said. My spine stiffened. "What now?" "I talked to David again. He said investors are pulling out. The restaurant's accounts are frozen." "What does that mean?" "It means Ethan's cornered. Completely." My pulse quickened. "And when he gets cornered, he gets dangerous," she finished. Right then, as if the universe wanted to underline the point, someone banged on her apartment door. Hard. Jake looked up. Sophia went pale. I didn't move at first. Then the banging came again. Harder this time. "Open the door!" Ethan's voice bellowed. "Sophia! Open it now!" Jake scrambled off the couch and ran to me. I pulled him close. Sophia whispered, "We shouldn't answer. He's not thinking straight." Ethan slammed his fist against the door again. "I know you're in there, both of you!" I motioned for Sophia to step back. She grabbed her phone. Ethan kept pounding on the door, voice cracking, unraveling. "You're ruining my life! You're ruining everything! Let me in!" A neighbor yelled down the hall. "Dude, knock it off!" He ignored it. When I heard him trying the doorknob, something cold and spooled in my chest. I stepped closer to the door, not to confront him, but to stand between him and my family. Then Sophia whispered, "Police are on their way." Ethan kept yelling, but after another minute he cursed, kicked the door, and stormed off. We waited until the footsteps faded. Only then did I realize I was shaking. Jake was, too. He buried his face in my shirt. Sophia looked at me with a kind of exhausted helplessness. "He's falling apart," she said, "and it's only going to get worse." "No," I said softly. "It's going to get finished." Because this wasn't just Ethan spiraling. This was Ethan losing the one thing he cared about more than anything. Power. And I knew exactly what needed to happen next. Not to ruin him, not to destroy him, but to save the piece of Dad's legacy he had almost dragged into the grave with him. And that choice? That final, decisive choice? The cops showed up 20 minutes after Ethan fled, but by then the hallway was quiet and the adrenaline had burned itself out in my veins. They took statements, noted the damaged door frame, and told Sophia to call immediately if Ethan came back. One of the officers even nodded at Jake and said, "Your dad kept you safe today, buddy." Jake nodded like it was a fact he'd always known. But after they left, the silence in the apartment felt heavy, like all three of us were waiting for the next blow. Sophia curled up on the far end of the couch, clutching a pillow like she needed something to keep her together. "He's going to lose the restaurant, Michael. You know that, right? Once the investors see the financials and the Outburst video, it's over." I wanted to say good, but the word lodged in my throat. As much as Ethan hurt me, as much as he tried to destroy me, Dad built that place with his bare hands. Losing the restaurant felt like losing him again. I leaned my elbows on my knees. "There has to be another way." Sophia laughed softly, hollow. "Another way? The board is already panicking. David said they're meeting tomorrow. They're talking about removing Ethan from management completely. Some want to replace him with a partner. Some want to sell the place." My head snapped up. "A partner?" Sophia nodded slowly, studying me. "There's a talk about offering a stake to someone who could restore the restaurant's reputation. Someone who knows the original recipes. Someone who actually understands what Pani's kitchen was supposed to be." I felt my heart drop into my stomach. "You're talking about me." She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Before I could process that bombshell, her phone lit up. She winced. "It's David." I gestured for her to answer. She put the call on speaker. "Hey," David said, his voice steady but urgent. "Quick update. One of the minority owners, the only one who hasn't pulled out yet, is asking to meet Michael. Tonight." My chest tightened. "Me? Why?" "She saw the video of what Ethan did," David said. "She said she wants to talk to the son who actually honors the recipes." Her words, not mine. I sat back, everything spinning. This wasn't revenge anymore. This wasn't survival. This was an opening, a once-in-a-lifetime shot to save Dad's legacy. "When?" I asked. "She's at the restaurant now," David said. "She wants to meet in private, just you." I looked at Jake, curled up on the recliner with his yellow sunglasses in his hand, eyelids drooping. I looked at Sophia, who gave me a tiny, hopeful nod. And I knew what I had to do. Walking into Pani's kitchen that night felt like walking into a memory someone had repainted the wrong colors. Gone were Dad's handwritten menu boards. Gone were the mismatched mugs he bought from thrift stores. Everything had been replaced with polished wood, sleek surfaces, generic decor. It didn't feel like home. It felt like a hotel lobby. A woman stood near the back table, mid-50s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. Her name was Linda, one of the original partners Dad had brought in when he expanded in the early 2000s. I recognized her from photos. She had always liked Dad, trusted him. She motioned for me to sit. "I followed everything," she said without preamble. "The meltdown, the threats, the city investigation, and most importantly, the food cart." I swallowed hard. I never wanted any of this to be public. "That's exactly why I wanted to meet you," she said. "You didn't chase attention. You didn't attack your brother. You created something people love, and you did it with your father's recipes intact." She slid a folder toward me. My hands hovered over it like it might burn. "That," she said, is a proposal. I want you to come in as a small minority owner. I'll handle the board, I'll handle the finances, but I need someone to restore the heart of this place, someone who understands authenticity, someone people trust. My heart thudded painfully. What about the cart? I asked quietly. Keep it, Linda said without hesitation. It's part of the story now, part of the draw. People want the truth. Give it to them. I stared at the folder. Dad would have told me to read it carefully. Mom would have told me to take it. Ethan would have tried to burn it. I don't want to work under Ethan, I said firmly. You won't, Linda replied. By tomorrow he won't be in charge of anything. Her tone was calm, but the weight of her words hit me like a falling beam. What's going to happen to him? I asked. She sighed. That depends on him, but he won't have control anymore. I nodded slowly. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't victory. It was a second chance. For the restaurant, for Dad's legacy, for my son. If I accept this, I said, I want Sophia involved. Linda smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. I reached for the pen. My hand shook, but not from fear this time. From the feeling that for once, I wasn't walking into something Ethan built. I was walking into something Dad left behind. Something I was finally ready to claim. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was stressed, but because Jake insisted on crawling into my bed at Sophia's place, and he kicked like a tiny caffeinated mule in his sleep. At around 5 a.m., he mumbled, Dad, make burritos, and then headbutted my shoulder. Kids got dreams. And a concussion-level sleep style. By the time we drove back to my cart at the farmer's market, the city felt different. Lighter somehow, like a storm had finally broken. Sophia met us there, her hair in a messy bun, a travel mug in hand. She looked nervous, excited, terrified, all at once. Did you sign it? She whispered. I lifted the folder. I did. She let out a breath like she'd been holding it for 3 months. Good, she said, because the board meeting starts in an hour. I didn't want to go, but Linda insisted. The new owner should be present, she had said. New owner. Just a small stake, sure, but enough to have a voice. Enough to matter. Enough to bring Dad back into the building Ethan tried to scrub him out of. Walking into the conference room felt like walking into a dentist appointment scheduled by your childhood bully. Ethan was already there. He looked destroyed. Dark circles, a cracked lip from biting it, shirt wrinkled like he'd slept in it, or not slept at all. His knee bounced uncontrollably. When he saw me, he froze mid-bounce. You, he spat. You did this. Linda seated herself at the head of the table. Actually, Ethan, you did this. The other board members nodded. Some glared at him. A few looked embarrassed, like they were remembering the meltdown video that had now been shared across half the city. This meeting is to address your breach of fiduciary duty, Linda said. The falsified invoices. The non-existent expansion. The abuse of staff. And the behavior that has severely damaged the reputation of Pawnee's Kitchen. Ethan's jaw clenched. Those documents were stolen. They were collected, Sophia said, speaking up for the first time. Her voice was steady. Ethan looked at her like she'd knifed him in the back. You're siding with him? With him? I'm siding with Dad, she said. And that was it. That was the moment Ethan realized he had lost. Not the restaurant, not the board, but the last shred of family he'd been clinging to like a sinking ship. Linda continued, effective immediately. You are removed from all management positions and stripped of your decision-making authority. Ethan shot to his feet. You can't do that! We just did, Linda said. He slammed both hands on the table. I built this place. No, I said quietly. Dad did. You just inherited it. Something inside him snapped. You think you can replace me? Ethan hissed. You think you can do better? With your stupid cart and your street food and... This meeting is over, Linda cut in. Security stepped inside the room. Ethan's face twisted. Rage, betrayal, humiliation, all boiling together. He pointed at me, shaking with fury. This isn't over. You ruined me. I hope... Ethan, Linda said firmly. Leave! He looked around wildly, searching for someone who'd defend him. No one did, not even Sophia. He stormed out without another word. The door slammed so hard the window rattled. 2 days later, a quiet settlement went through. Ethan sold back his stake under pressure. Enough to keep him afloat, but not enough to give him influence. He moved out of town. Not far, but far enough that the restaurant stopped being his shadow. Sophia became the new general manager. Linda's choice, not mine. She deserved it. She'd been the backbone of the place long before any of us admitted it. The first thing she did? She put Dad's handwritten menu boards back up. People cried. Actual grown adults cried over chalk menus. And as for me, I kept the cart. Not because I needed it, but because I loved it. It was mine. It was Jake's. It was Dad's spirit in steel wheels and sizzling chorizo. Helped at the restaurant sometimes, consulting, teaching staff Dad's real recipes, hosting community nights. But the cart stayed where my joy lived. The line grew 3 times longer after the board saga. Some customers brought their kids, telling them, "This is the real Pawnee kitchen." Jake now tells everyone he's the assistant chef. He hands out napkins, high fives, and tells people I'm famous, which is both hilarious and mortifying. One afternoon, Sophia stopped by with a freshly printed flyer. "What's this?" I asked. "Your first official cooking class," she said. "At the restaurant, using Dad's recipes. You should teach people the way he taught us." I looked at the flyer. My face, the cart behind me, and the title in Pawnee's legacy, Cooking with Heart. My throat tightened. Jake tugged my sleeve and named, "Are you nervous?" "A little," I admitted. He grinned. Grandpa would be proud. That did it. I had to turn away for a second so he wouldn't see the tears welling up. The first class filled up in minutes. Families, grandparents, teenagers, old regulars from decades ago. I stood at the front of the kitchen, Dad's recipe notebook open beside me, the smell of onions and cilantro filling the air, and I realized something. This wasn't about beating Ethan. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about rebuilding what mattered, about giving Jake a legacy that wasn't rooted in bitterness, about showing Sophia that loyalty and love don't have to be chains, about honoring Dad, really honoring him, by feeding people with the same heart he always had. I started the class with the same words Dad used to say when he handed me a knife too big for my hands. Cooking isn't about perfection. It's about care. The room got quiet. Then I added, and this right here is how we keep our family alive. Jake sat in the front row wearing his yellow sunglasses. He gave me a thumbs up. And for the first time in years, everything felt whole. Everything felt earned. Everything felt right.